The new DC film Superman hits theaters this weekend. We spoke with Terence Rosemore, who plays Otis in the film. Rosemore has worked on countless projects in the last 30 years, but has his favorites.
The most fun that I've had working on projects has been with James Gunn on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, 3, the Christmas Special, and Superman. Um, their top flight, the production. It's a blessing, man, because when you're working on a Marvel or a DC project, or basically I should say, when you're working on a James Gunn project, you're working with some of the best in the world in each department. Everybody is top flight. And so I'm also a director and a producer. So I'm always looking for the weaklings. There are none on those shows. And so those have been the most fun to me because of their, the audience's attachment to that world, those worlds and those characters.
He grew up in New Orleans and now works in Atlanta. His career may have launched when he and his girlfriend attended a play.
I was saying, man, I can do that. And then she embarrassed me. Why don't you do it? And stop talking. All the women are laughing at me. And so the next day I was sitting home mad at her because she embarrassed me. She one-upped me. But then I said, you know what? She's absolutely right. I've been saying this, but I haven't done anything to do it. And I had an uncle, my father's brother, who was an actor in community theater, and he'd been telling me for the previous 10 years, hey man, I believe you can do this. You need to do this. And that next day I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I didn't know how, Spencer, but I was going to school at the time. And so the next Monday night I went to class, and there was a poster that said auditions. So this is before cell phones. I said, okay, when I get out of class, I'm gonna write this down. And when I got in class, my professor was Dr. Ted Gilliam, who was the founder and artistic director of Dashiki Theater, who were putting on the play. And he was passing, he actually directed my uncle, but he didn't know that. He didn't know that I was Julian's nephew. So as he was passing out assignments back, he said, you have a very booming voice. You should come audition for my play. And I did. And then that's how I started.
Rosemore is limited in what he's allowed to say about his role as Otis and the Superman production overall.
I tell you what, this is going to be a very different Otis from the Otis that we know, which was invented or premiered by the late Ned Beatty, who played Otis. And so my Otis is going to be a totally different Otis. That's about as much as I can say. But the movie's gonna, if you've ever seen any James Gunn films, it's gonna have action, it's gonna have comedy, it's gonna have heart. It's gonna have heart.
He enjoyed working with Superman actor David Corenswet and director James Gunn.
David is a pro. When you're number one and you're playing the most popular comic book character in the history of the world, that's a heavy load. And what I like about David, from what I witnessed, is that he's taking that responsibility and he's making it his own. He's not trying to be anybody but himself. And also James, I'll tell you a funny story about how I learned I was going to be playing Otis. So a lot of times James will hire me to read against other actors when they're doing what do they call it? A test screening. So basically, they'll put an actor or an actress in costume, and then they'll hire me and maybe some other actors to play a scene with them. And we were also auditioning the Kent, two actors who were going to play Superman's father, his adopted father. So I'm hanging out on set, waiting for them to set up. And James walks past me casually, and he says, "Oh, by the way, you're playing Otis." And then he walks off. And so I'm standing there, and I said, "Otis, why does that sound familiar?" Otis. And then it took me about a minute to realize, oh snap, Otis, who is in the original Superman movie that Beatty made him iconic, with the Otisburg stuff between him and Gene Hackman, who played Lex Luthor. So that, he says it as casually as, "Hey man, you want a peanut butter jelly sandwich?" and then walks off. And so when it dawned on me what he was saying, and then I had to spend the rest of the day working, so I couldn't tell anybody and couldn't celebrate anything. And so, that was something to chew on while shooting the rest of those test screenings.
Rosemore previously worked with Gunn on Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 2 and 3 and The Suicide Squad. He compared those projects to Superman.
You know what's crazy? There is no difference. Because you got DC and then you got Marvel, right? Two different entities. But James pretty much has the same crew working for both of them. So the experience, maybe the tone of the material, but I can't even say that because James is going to put his fingerprint on everything he does. I also worked with him on Brightburn. He was an executive producer on that. And one of the guys who played one of the Ravagers actually directed it, and his brother wrote it. James is one of James' brothers, wrote the script, co-wrote the script. But from DC to Marvel, from Suicide Squad to Guardians, it's the same thing. It's almost pretty much the same crew, the same efficiency, the same professionalism, the same family vibe. I mean, you're talking about a crew of about anywhere between 150 to 200 people. And normally when you got that many people, there's usually going to be one or two a-holes. I have yet to meet one on a James Gunn set. So not only are they very professional and proficient, but they're also nice human beings. And again, when you look at a film or you look at a newsroom, it starts with the head and it usually rolls down.
Rosemore has a word of advice for aspiring actors.
Don't quit. One of the things I always tell young people is to learn the business of show business. Most of us, when we get into it, we want to initially tell stories. We want to be storytellers. And then at some point, you want to be famous and rich because we see the shiny stuff. But I was always told, whatever it is that you want to do for a living, look at the least shiniest part of it and start there. So if somebody's trying to be an actor, say, hey man, there's millions of people that want to be an actor, and you could be the best actor in the world pound for pound, but you may never get to the level of David Corensmith or whatever. Are you still willing? Do you love acting that much, or do you want to be famous? And do you want to be rich? I think that's the first thing, is you got to ask yourself, why do I want to do that? And there's no wrong answer. And depending on what that answer is, there's different things that I think you need to do to reach those separate deals. Back in the days, in the early 70s, when you're talking about Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, all the great actors, their goal was to be the best actor that they could be. And once they got that goal, the riches and the fame came as a result of that. Understand that you could be the best in the world, you could give 200%, and still not get invited to the table. So my thing is to create your own venues. You're seeing it now with people with podcasts and viral videos and stuff. So stay active, create your own venues. Don't sit, be proactive and not reactive. In other words, don't wait for people to say, hey, we want you. Go find ways to put yourself in position to do what you want to do.
The cast includes David Corenswet as Superman, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. An accomplished ensemble supporting cast fills out the film, many of whom are in their first film of this genre. The story follows Superman as he must reconcile his alien Kryptonian heritage with his human alter ego, mild-mannered reporter Clark Kent. As the embodiment of truth, justice, and the human way, Superman finds himself in a world that views this as old-fashioned. Superman is rated PG-13 and contains some material parents may find unsuitable for children under 13. George Mallet, WNDU.com.